All right, good morning. Good morning, we're ready to start now. Nice to have everybody on. So today we're going to be discussing the definition of what the entire book of the Tanya is built upon, and that is the principles of what is a Tzadik, a righteous person, a Rasha, an evil person, and a Beinuni, an intermediate person. These are three very important words to remember. You can write it down, memorize it, because these are words that we're going to be using quite often. So again, that's a tzaddik, which means a righteous person. Tzadik, tzaddik, and a rush, which means a righteous, a rasha, rasha, which is an evil person, and a beinuni, an intermediate person. To be more precise, what we really want to address is this Beinuni, this intermediate person. Beinuni would be Beini, O-N-I. Okay, O-N-I. So this is what we want to address, is this Beinuni individual. Who exactly is this Beinuni? How do we understand what a Beinuni is? So we have to look into the Torah to see how does the Torah define what a righteous person is, or what makes it an evil person an evil person. And if you look at Jewish literature, it talks about that there are righteous people, complete righteous people, there are incomplete righteous people, there are completely evil people, and not completely evil people. Meaning to say that a completely righteous person is someone who's completely righteous. Someone who's not completely righteous means that they have some bad inside of them. Let's say, just for the sake of discussion, they're mostly good, but a little bit of bad. A completely evil person is 100% evil. Mostly evil means that they have a little bad inside of them. If this is the definition of what a righteous person and what an evil person is, then we must conclude that a Beinuni, the fifth definition, an intermediate person, is someone who is half and half. Because if they're mostly good, they'll be considered righteous. If they're mostly bad, they'll be considered evil. So the Beinuni has to be someone who is half and half. And if this is the definition of what a Beinuni is, so how is it possible then that the great sage of Rabbah said that he is a Beinuni? Rabbah was a righteous individual, a godly, holy person, as we're going to see in a moment, who never ceased to say the words of the Torah, and as he was always used his mouth and always spoke only holy things. So how can he incorrectly or mistakenly characterize himself as a Beinuni? He is certainly a tzaddik. Certainly a righteous individual based upon our understanding. We have another question. That's what we're holding today. So let's look inside the second question. I'm going to share the screen here. The second question is to understand all the aforesaid clearly, an explanation is called for. Right here, in this gray box. In addition to the question, which will soon follow, that according to the common conception of a Beinuni, as a person having half mitzvot and half transgressions, how could a great sage like Rabbah mistake himself for a Beinuni? A further question is implied. If the Beinuni simply is one having half mitzvos and half transgression, then his status is readily identifiable, and there's no possible room for debate. Furthermore, and also to understand the statement of Job, the famous character from the book of the prophets, Job, who was known to be a man of great stature, but also someone who experienced much pain in his life and suffering in his life. He has said, Lord of the universe, you have created righteous men and you have created wicked men. And on this, the Talmud asked, based upon the statement of Job, how could it be? For he does not decree which person are to be righteous and wicked. Explanation is like this. The Gemara relates that God decrees that a child about to be born will be wise or foolish, strong or weak, tall or short, good looking or not good looking, and so on. However, the child will be righteous or wicked. God does not say. That is not predetermined. It is rather left to the individual's free choice. Right? We cannot decide if we're going to be tall or short. That is given to us by the Almighty God. But whether we're going to be righteous or not righteous, what our character traits are going to be, that is up to us. We can decide how we're going to behave. That is completely free choice. So how can it be that Job said that God created righteous men and evil men, right? Seems then that it's not up to us based upon Job's statement. Another question we're going to ask, we must also understand the essential nature, the essence of the rank of a Beinuni. What is the mahus? The essence of the Tzadik is righteousness. The mahus, the essence of the wicked man, is evil. What then is the essence, the essential nature of the Beinuni? If it's not good, righteousness, if it's not evil, wickedness, what then is it? You want to close the door? Thank you. Why is he asking this question? He's asking this question because based upon what we said a moment ago, that a righteous person is either completely righteous or mostly righteous. An evil person is either completely evil or mostly evil. And what then is the identity of this Beinuni? If you would have to describe a Beinuni, how would you describe it? And now the Alter Rebbe will begin, the author of the Tanya will begin to describe what exactly is this idea of righteousness and evilness. So when we'll understand this, we'll then better understand what the identification or how we can identify what a Beinuni is, okay? He is certainly, the Beinuni is certainly not one whose deeds are half virtuous and half sinful. For if this were so, how could Rabbah err in classifying himself as a Beinuni? If a Beinuni is someone who's half and half, how can Rabbah make such a mistake? Rabbah knows who he is. He's not a fool. He's a great sage, one of the greatest sages of all times, especially of his generation. So how could he have it ready? How could he have made that mistake? Especially based upon what we know about Rabbah. For what's known that his mouth never ceased studying Torah, so much so that even the angel of death had no dominion over him. Top of page 38. Such as when Rabbah's diligence was so much so that he did not neglect his studies even for a moment. Qualitatively too, his learning was on such a high plane that the angel of death was unable to overpower him. I want to explain the statement for a second. If somebody is healthy, then there's no room for an illness to attach itself to that healthy part of your body. So let's say, for example, if you have a healthy hand, it's very unlikely you will get a fungus on your hand. Where does a fungus typically show up? In your feet, athlete's foot or whatever. Why is that the case? Because sometimes our system of sending the blood flow from our heart through our body parts takes a while till it gets to our feet. So it's possible that certain parts of our feet are not getting the proper nutrients or blood flow that it needs. And because there's a lack of life sustaining that part of our body, something else will fill that space. In this case, we may get a fungus growing on our foot. Okay? But if a person has a healthy system where the blood flows smoothly throughout the entire body, there's a less of a chance of them getting this athlete's foot. so too it is also in all areas of our life. If we stay healthy, then there's a less chance of us getting sick. Now, it doesn't mean that a healthy person will not get sick. It doesn't mean that a unhealthy person will always get sick. But there's a better chance that if a person is healthy, then there's no room for any unhealthy thing to attach itself to. Okay, so think about it. If a person exercises and feels healthy, there's a better chance that they're going to behave in a healthy manner after they finished exercising. When a person is feeling sluggish or down or not feeling good about themselves, it's a good chance they're going to engage in more unhealthy behaviors. So basically what he's saying is very simple. What Tanya is telling us. This is a sidetrack, but the point is, when it comes to the angel of death, if someone is engaged in godly, spiritual, holy activities, the angel of death cannot take hold of that person. The angel of death personifies an unhealthy behavior, an unhealthy thing, wants to cause death to a person, right? If a person is completely healthy, but mind, body, and soul, then the angel of death has no place to hold on to. Rabbah, who always spoke words of holiness, did not leave any room for the angel of death to grab him and say, your time has come and you're going to die, you're going to expire. So in other words, if this is the case, how is it then possible for Rabbah to have mistaken to say that he is half and half, when clearly he's not half and half, he's almost completely holy, if not is completely holy? Make sense? So how could he make a mistake? How then could he err in considering that half his deeds were sinful? God forbid. Now we're going to go even further. Furthermore, when can a person be considered a Beinuni? In other words, we have to, again, we're trying to understand the definition of a Beinuni, right? How do we characterize a Beinuni? When can a person be considered a Beinuni? But at the time when one sins until he repents, he's deemed completely wicked. And if he
Rabbi? Hello?
I don't know. Did we lose Rabbi?
Which we have yeah?
Rabbi, we lost you for a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay. Thanks for telling me. They've severed their relationship with God. That means they are now considered gone to the other side, so to speak. They're now considered wicked. If they do tshuva, which God gives us the ability me to do that is called tshuva, then that second you're now righteous. So when are you considered a Beinuni? That's the question. When can one ever be called an intermediate person? Tshuva, you repent and you're then considered holy, or you're evil because the moment you sin. Right? So you're going back and forth between the two. So when exactly are you considered a Beinuni? Even more. Continue now on the screen here or in the book. What page in your book? So Victor and Ann is on page 41.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Even he who violates a minor prohibition of the rabbis is termed wicked, as is stated in Yevamos. Sorry, page 40. Or on page 38 with you,
Are they on,
Jennifer.
so they're on my page? Okay, fine.
Moreover, even if he himself does not sin, but has the opportunity to forewarn another against sinning and fails to do so, is turned wicked. So you see how hard it is to be righteous? How easy it is to be wicked? If a person has the ability to study Torah, and there's a mitzvah for a person to study Torah at all time, or If a person has the ability to stop someone from doing something wrong and we don't do that, you're considered wicked. Even further, all the more so, he who neglects any positive law which he is able to fulfill, for instance, whoever is able to study Torah and does not do so, to whom our sages have applied the verse, because he has despised the word of the Lord, that soul shall be utterly cut off. And it is thus plain that such a person is called wicked, more so than he who has violates a prohibition of the sages. This being so, we must conclude that the Beinuni is not guilty even of the sin of neglecting the study of Torah. So how do we define what a Beinuni is? If the moment a person who's supposed to learn Torah, do you know how often someone is obligated to study Torah? The answer is someone who's unemployed or retired should study Torah the entire day, except when they're eating and sleeping. Someone who goes to work studies Torah in the morning and the evening before they go to work, when they come home from work, because a person is okay to earn a living. A person is engaged in other positive activities. They're also exempt from studying Torah. But other than that, we have to utilize every moment in holy conduct and studying God's word. If we don't do that, our sages have said that you are neglecting to study the words of Torah, meaning to say that you're cutting yourself off of God, which is an act of unrighteousness, unholiness. You're then considered evil. So how easy it is to then fall into the pure definition of what a righteous person is and what an evil person is. It's very difficult to be considered righteous or very difficult to be considered evil because you're going between the two. So how then do we understand what a Beinuni is? Okay, that's the question. And because of this, Rabbah mistook himself for a Beinuni. The first question was, how can Rabbah mistake himself by saying he's a Beinuni? Very simple, because Rabbah felt that he was a Beinuni. He was not a perfect Tzadik. He did not always do what he should have done 100%. And because of this, he said, I can't be righteous. I'm not either evil. So he said, I'm probably a Beinuni. So what then is a Beinuni? Okay, that's the question. Is the question clear? Once we understand what a Beinuni is, we'll have a much better understanding of what our discussion is on page 40 in your book, Jennifer, and right after the note.
42.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You see this word here now. See that? Highlighted, yeah. As for the well-known saying that one whose deeds and misdeeds are equally balanced is called a Beinuni, while he who has a majority of virtues outweighing his sin is called a Tzadik. Who shem hamushal le'inyan schar da'inish. This is a borrowed name used in regard to reward and punishment. It is well-known saying. What does it mean as a well-known saying? If you can look here, can you see it here? Maimonides in the Laws of Tshuva and Rashi in the tractate Rosh Hashanah, they describe this idea that what is a Beinuni? It is someone who is half righteous and half evil. Okay. Are they making a mistake in describing what a Beinuni is? Answer is no. That is an accurate description of what a Beinuni is as it relates to the borrowed name of a Beinuni. What does it mean, a borrowed name of the Beinuni? So I look inside on the shared screen, i.e. a figurative use of the term borrowed from its true usage in order to emphasize a particular point. See that? This is the name Beinuni and Tzadik, denoting a balance between merits and sins are in fact but borrowed names. Let's say someone goes to court and the court rules that you're righteous, right? You're not guilty, and you're guilty. You're not righteous in this case. Does that mean that you're righteous? Does that mean you're not righteous? No. It means that in this case, you're righteous. In this case, you're not righteous. In other words, the term righteous or not righteous is a borrowed term. It doesn't describe accurately who that person is. It simply describes that in this case, you're this or you're that. Another example of a borrowed term, and we use this in life all the time. We use borrowed terms to describe certain things. Here's the key to success. Are you giving me an actual key? No, it is a borrowed term. It is hot in here. Is it really hot in here? No, it's just a borrowed term. Okay. Even the term, you're a successful person or you're a loser, these are borrowed terms. It does not describe necessarily exactly who or what that person is. Even the term, you're kind or you're mean or you're short-tempered or whatever, these are also borrowed terms. It doesn't truly describe, it only describes what we can see, how that person is behaving at this particular moment. Okay. So when we say that a Beinuni is half righteous and half not righteous is a borrowed term. As it relates specifically to in regards to reward and punishment. And he is termed righteous. Why? Because one is judged according to the majority of his deeds. Therefore, standing in front of the court, he's termed righteous in reference to his verdict, since he's acquitted at this trial. If, however, we seek to truly define the distinct qualities and ranks of a tzaddik and a beinoni, but if we want to get to the real issue of what is a righteous person, what is a non-righteous person, to the heart of what we are talking about, sages have remarked that the righteous are judged, motivated, and ruled solely by the good nature, as it is written, and my heart is void within me. Meaning to say that this is a statement from King David, who said that he had eradicated the evil inclination from within him. He does not have an evil inclination inside of him, meaning to say that only his good nature is what rules him, his decisions, and how he conducts his life, because he is devoid of an evil nature, having slain it through fasting. Totally was able to get rid of it. We have three different definitions here, okay? We have the Shem HaMoshel, the borrowed term of what a Beinoni is, half and half. That is only as it relates to cases of law, jurisdiction. We have the Shem HaTayar, the actual name of the Beinoni, as it relates to who they are. You are someone that is ruled by righteousness, or someone who is not ruled by righteousness. Okay. Now we have to understand what is the essential character trait of the Beinoni. There's a great sage who's a disciple of the third Chabad Rebbe, known as the Tzadik. His name was Reb Hillel, from the city of Parich, known as Reb Hillel Paricher, who was a great sage, a godly, God-fearing person, a holy individual. And he referred to himself as being someone who was righteous. When he started to learn the Tanya and what the definition of a tzaddik is, he recalled and he said, Halavai a Beinoni, if only I was a Beinoni. As once you understood what a righteous person is and what a Beinoni, he says, oh boy, I'm far from it. If only I was a Beinoni. So what is this true definition of a Beinoni? That's really what we understand. And in simple terms, basically, the true definition of a Beinoni is, we're going to call him the struggler. A Beinoni is someone who always struggles. The Alter Rebbe will explain the Beinoni does not ever sin, but he always has that desire to sin. He always has that drive, that battle inside of him, trying to push him to do him or her to do the wrong thing. And so the role of the Beinoni is to constantly fight with their inclinations and try to do their best not to behave in the wrong way. Okay? That is what the Beinoni struggles to do. And that is what a Beinuni is. So we have the borrowed term, the actual term, and the true term of what a Beinuni is. Okay, each very different. And the Alter Rebbe is going to focus the entire book. As we said, this lesson in Tanya is also called the book of the Beinuni. He will describe this Beinuni. And each and every one of us are these Beinunis. We constantly have that struggle inside of us. If only we don't have the struggle. The Alter Rebbe will tell us, perhaps this is why we were put onto this world, to constantly struggle. Life is a struggle. But the good news is, the Alter Rebbe will give us the tools to be able to overcome the struggle and to beat the struggle. But the fact that we are having this fight every single moment, yes, that's the reality. And what the Alter Rebbe will tell us, don't let it get you down, because it's very normal for us to feel degraded and to feel beaten and crushed when we have this struggle. Why am I having this challenge? Why am I fighting? Why do everything has to be a decision and hard work on my part? But when we do overcome the battle, the Alter Rebbe will tell us we actually have elevated to a higher level, a much higher level. We've come out much stronger and much better. So the Alter Rebbe says that King David merited to get rid of and eradicate his evil inclination and only be ruled by his godly soul. But whoever has not attained this degree, top page 42, but whoever has not attained this degree of ridding himself of his evil nature, even though his virtues outnumber his sins, is not at all the level in the ranks of a tzaddik. If you have not eradicated your evil inclination, you cannot be considered by the true definition a tzaddik. And this is why our sages have explained that the Almighty saw the righteous were few. So of course they're few. It's so hard to do. So what did God do? So he rose and he planted, i.e. and spread them in every generation. For as it is written, that Tzadik is the foundation of the world. What did God do? God put a Tzadik in every generation because the world needs to have a few righteous people. So God planted some righteous people in every generation. Why did he have to plant it? Because it is not the natural thing for the world for a person to attain. Meaning to say, it is not an easy thing for a person to attain. We need to have special divine assistance to reach that level. What does that then mean for me and you? It simply means that we are the strugglers. We have to fight every single day. We wake up in the morning and we have the very first struggle. The second we wake up, should I sleep for another 5 minutes or should I get up? That is a struggle. That is the battle between my body and my soul, as we're going to talk in a moment. Why am I having that battle? Because we have a voice inside of us that may not be completely righteous. Why do we have that voice? As we're going to see in a moment, because every person is created with these two neshamas, these two souls. Any questions before we continue? Okay. So let's now jump into the thing. Now here the Alter Rebbe will introduce a novel idea. This entire book, the author of this book says, these are all teachings that I have compiled. They all exist already, and I just simply put them into a book form. But in reality, this is anything but a repeat of previously taught teachings. These are all original ideas based upon statements of previous generations. So Alter Rebbe will now begin to explain this incredibly novel idea that is so revolutionary that it will assist anyone that studies the Tanya. It'll help guide, strengthen, and give us direction when we are struggling with who we are, with our identity. And that will be read in the next 2 lines. You ready? Alter Rebbe says like this. However, the explanation of the matter, so that we better understand the level of a tzaddik and a Beinuni, as well as the various gradations within their ranks. So before we start, I just want to reiterate again, we're trying to understand what a Beinuni is and what a righteous person is. A righteous person is someone who eradicated his evil inclination, only has good inside of him. The Beinuni only does good, but has an evil inclination inside and has that daily struggle. Okay? So now I say daily, that's really being nice. It's a struggle minute to minute, second to second. Okay. So Alter Rebbe now quotes the famous book from Reb Chaim Vital, the book of the Zohar, the Kabbalistic works, and he says like this: it is to be found in the light of Rabbi Chaim Vital, who was a student of the famous Arizal, and he wrote in the book Shar HaKedusha, the portal of holiness, that every Jew, whether righteous or wicked, possesses 2 souls. He said you should know. Don't think that you're a singular human being, but you are a bi-souled individual, meaning to say you have dual energies. What are these 2 energies? We're going to see in a second. How does we know this? As everything in Judaism, it has to be based on a verse. The verse says, as it is written, and neshamos, written in the plural, souls, which I have made. Although this verse is talking about a man, and it refers to the man in the singular, but when it comes to the word souls within man, it uses this plural, meaning to say that the singular man, the singular human, has 2 souls. Okay? What are these 2 souls? These 2 souls are as follows. There are 2 life forces, meaning to say there are 2 human drives. I'm going to read this and then I'll explain what I'm saying, okay? One soul originates in Klipa and Sitra Achara. It is this nefesh, this soul, which originates in the Klipa and Sitra Achara, that is clothed in the blood of the human being, giving life to the body. What is this soul? What is Klipa and Sitra Achara? Klipa simply means a peel or a shell. An orange has a peel. A nut, an almond, has a shell. Okay? What is the role of this shell, this peel? It is there to protect the fruit or the nut. Our job is to peel away that cover, that shell, and eat the fruit. Break away the shell of the nut. It's a lot harder to peel a shell of a nut than it is of an orange, right? So there's different types of coverings. There's harder coverings and softer coverings, an important differentiation to remember. But nonetheless, the role of these are to cover over what's inside. The peel or the cover by itself does not necessarily have any inherent value. Okay? The nefesh habahamis, the life force of the first soul that we're talking about, this human soul, originates in this klipa, in this category of shell and peel. God created forces, you see it on the bottom of 42. God created forces which conceal the godly life force found in all creation. This shell conceals that which is in it. That is klipa. Sitra achra literally means the other side. You have the holy side and the unholy side. Okay? The side of creation that is the antithesis of holiness and purity. And these 2 terms generally go hand in hand with one another. The human soul or the life soul, this life force inside of the person that is clothed within the bloodstream of a person, has these two elements. The klipa and sitra achra, they go hand in hand, meaning to say that they're not holy, but it's covering over something. Where does it come from? This other side, the other side of holiness. God is a very fair individual, equal-minded person. God likes equality and what's the other woke terms that are used to describe everyone's thing? God made everything. If there's holiness, there's the opposite of holiness. Okay. And so, where is this soul found? In the blood of the human being, which is, by the way, why, according to Jewish law, total aside point, according to Jewish law, you're not allowed to eat blood. When we check our eggs, you're supposed to look for a blood spot. If it has a blood spot, you throw out the egg, or at least take out the blood spot. Why? Because blood is the sign of a soul, a life force. If a person cuts their finger, you shouldn't put it into your mouth and stop it by sucking the blood, because blood is your life force. Right? Where exactly does this soul come from? We said it originates in klipa and sitra achra. He said like this. I'm going to read this, and we're going to. I'll read it, and then we will. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to say it outside, because we're going to finish it over here, and we're going to continue this next week. And so what the Rebbe is going to say now, that the source of this soul, of this life force that's in the person, this human soul, comes from the four elements of creation. What are the four elements of creation? Fire, wind, water, and earth. Okay? These are the four elements of creation. Scientifically, they may be referred to as solid, liquid, gas, and matter. And everything in creation has these four elements: fire, wind, water, and solids, and earth, I mean. According to the Torah, according to the Kabbalists, each of these four have all these four elements also. Within fire, you also have the ruach, spirit or wind, water, and earth. Within the spirit, within the wind, you have fire, water, and earth. Within water, you have fire, spirit, and earth, and so on and so forth. Okay. And that is the source of this animal, this human soul. Another term to remember. This soul is called the self soul. Okay. Sometimes referred to as the selfish soul. Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad soul. It just means that it's concerned about self. Okay. Self-preservation. It's a concern about the me. The second soul that we're going to talk about in chapter 2 is the godly soul, the soul that is concerned about spirituality. And these are the two souls: the animal soul, the self soul, and the godly soul, the holy soul, the spiritual soul. And each of us possesses these two souls. And the challenge that we have and the battle that we constantly struggle with as being this Beinuni, because we're not the Tzadik, we haven't eradicated, we're not evil either, is to see which one is going to rule over us. Will it be the self, or will it be the other, the godly? With this, we'll conclude today's lesson. Thank you very much.